Thank you, Sharon and John. My name is Rue. I'm here tonight to talk about recovery oriented language and imagery. And as Sharon had mentioned, I'm Rue Parkin, and I'm a New York certified peer specialist. And I am the chair and co founder of Help NYC. I'll talk about Help NYC in just a moment. My pronouns are he, they, and them. I am a white presenting, biracial, queer, non binary human. And I have a wallpaper up behind me with my organization's logo and a nice aerial shot of the Lower East Side. And that's for those who need visual accessibility tonight. And if you would like to follow along in tonight's presentation, just take your phone and scan that QR code that is on the screen, and that also will allow you to, if you need visual accessibility. And Help NYC. So Help NYC is a peer-driven 501c3 nonprofit here in New York City. We advocate to lower barriers to entry-level services and lift the lives of underserved New Yorkers by using our lived experience. Everyone who is associated with Help NYC has some sort of lived experience, whether it's mental health, homelessness, a loved one or a family member has had challenges with homelessness or mental health, or is a racial minority, or has been an underserved and oppressed person. That is important because our lived experience drives the work we do. Our two signature programs, the more well-known one is the helpnyc.info resource navigator that just redeployed. And also we have a peer-to-peer network of those who provide direct food assistance to people in need. These are the people that have the boots on the ground, and that is the Food Assistance Collective of New York. And those are the websites that you can find those two programs at. So, we are all on a journey moving together, moving forward to the future. I want you to keep that in mind. We're on a journey moving towards the future. So as Sharon said before, she's picked up a new term, challenges. So I'm just going to dig into that before we start about the language and imagery tonight, that problems versus challenges and how that can change our perception of what we are facing to help our fellow New Yorkers. So problems is a matter or situation regarded as an unwelcomed or harmful or needing to be dealt with and overcome. That's pretty negative, I guess you could agree to, right? It doesn't leave room for hope or a solution or opportunity there. Where if we change the word problem or issues to the word challenges, it's a task or situation that tests someone's abilities. And that's where we come into recovery-oriented language, is that we are focusing on the person first, their abilities, and the situation last. So what is recovery-oriented language and imagery? While we talk about this tonight, keep in mind that language we use is perceived through our lived experience, not our intellectual experience. Where we lived something, it is much more powerful to come to a solution than it is through our intellectualizing an experience that we've never had. Someone may not have lived experience with homelessness, but that doesn't mean that they haven't had housing insecurity or haven't been able to pay their rent or mortgage. The language we use reflects our attitudes and views. For instance, recently I have a lot of friends in DC, and I went down and visited them. And their partners and friends are bureaucrats and diplomats and very governmental type people. And I was at dinner, so I'm used to the language that they throw around. And this person who I didn't know said, well, there's a person experiencing homelessness outside our house that I would like to help. I'm not kidding you. My head's like snapped around. I'm like, what did you say? And and I'm like, are you in the mental health field? And they're like, no, I have a high they said where they worked, and it was pretty high up, and I'm like, wow. And my connection was established with that person because of the language they used. Because a typical person of that socioeconomic class would have said, oh, a homeless person. And that's a language that really disconnects and divides our community. And no one should be defined by their diagnosis, difficulties, current situation, or a single aspect of who a person is. We're a person first, and we're experiencing something. Because we are seeing maybe 5 minutes, an hour, a week, maybe a month of a possible lifetime of 80 years. And that shouldn't define us. I know I wouldn't want to be defined by that. So recovery-oriented language focuses on the abilities, strengths, and experience of a person we are communicating with an emphasis on acceptance, hope, respect, uniqueness, and recovery, empowers the person and eliminates the stigma associated with one's lived experience. Whether that is internal stigma, like I am a person with lived experience of being homelessness and I'm in recovery from mental health concerns and substance use disorder. And there's a lot of internal stigma that comes with that as well. Recovery-oriented language is not confusing, speculative, we're not assuming anything in here, or using jargon. A lot of the social services industry complex uses acronyms and terms that no one understands except them. So we want to save that for our work, not for our interfacing with people. And this conversation is not neutral. It is active and deliberate, just as the person who at dinner down in DC a couple weeks ago said, and it made my head whip around. Because we made a connection because he understands that people come first. And also, recovery-oriented language is clear and understandable. It's strengths-based. If a person is having a challenge with staying sober, I would not say, oh, how do you think you can do that because you've relapsed before? What I would say, so that sounds great. How can we make sure that you maintain your sobriety? So that's saying the same thing and moving towards the same goal, but saying it in a very positive and empathetic way, and how can I help you? Leaving the control of the situation with the person. Sincere and caring commitment and opportunity. I know when I was street homeless and shelter homeless, I was promised a lot, and there was never any delivery. So having a sincere commitment and opportunity sometimes looks like, I can't help you with your challenges, but let's find someone that can. Instead of saying, I can solve everything, and I'm not at that pay grade. So, and then moving, again, person first, situation second. Always putting the person first, the human being who is centered in front of you. And it's goal-orientated. It's always, recovery-oriented language is always goal-orientated. And these are the 3 examples I always use. These are 3 examples I sent Sharon and John, is that an example of recovery-oriented language is people who live with mental health concerns rather than the mentally ill. Another one is people who are currently experiencing homelessness rather than the homeless. And then people who have experience with the justice system rather than criminals and felons, where we're putting the person first and the situation second. So another thing that we see in the media, pictures say 1,000 words, is the images that we use. And more often than not, when I see documentaries or depictions of people experiencing homelessness in the media, movies, television, even on stage, the imagery is always of the person experiencing their challenge hardcore. It's never showing the true picture of the entire situation that person is in. So recovery-oriented imagery focuses on the person's attitudes in an uplifting, empathetic, and positive light to communicate the person's lived experience, not their situation. And the next slide I'm going to show you are, we rarely at Help NYC will show a photo of someone inappropriately. but I blocked out their faces, and these are public images. And also something I want to keep in mind is that if a photo of me from 12 years ago when I was street homeless comes up again, people are going to think I'm homeless. I'm a little old. I have a little bit more gray now, but that photo, unlike language, can follow them the rest of their lives. So these are examples of not so good imagery that conveys a very not positive about the person. I personally think we do not need to see this. We see it all around us every day. We know what street homelessness looks like, but is the very small sliver of the truly what homelessness looks like in New York and around the world. This is recovery oriented imagery. People are engaged, they know they're being photographed, they're posing, they're receiving service, they're participating in the image. Now these photos, something else is that we have the rights to them, or we know the photographer who has the rights to them, and we can track it back to the person. So when this photo comes up and they don't want it, we take it down. We want to respect the person, not the situation. And recovery-oriented language and imagery is using our lived experience to bring hope and opportunity to those we serve. Those three pictures are of people who have lived experience. There's me on the left talking in Midtown South during the COVID shelter challenges we had down there. You guys may have saw it on the news. And then the center one is from the New York Food Bank, serving New Yorkers in need outside the Barclays Center. And the last one is Jahira, who is a trans woman with lived experience with homelessness and mental health challenges. And she's my dear friend, and she helps us out here at Help NYC. So I want to thank the Midtown South Community Council and Sharon and John for inviting me here tonight. And if you would like to reach out to me, this was a very slimmed down version of a lecture that I give on peer delivered services. And also, if you want to network with us and become a community partner or a listening partner on our resource navigator, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Or if you would like a presentation for your community or your organization, let me know. Thank you again. Have a great evening.